Hello again, everyone. Edwin Learnard back once again. In this YouTube astrological segment, I'm going to be dissertating and talking about Saturn transiting the 8th house in a natal chart. Now, on average, Saturn will traverse a house for approximately 2.5 years. However, if your house size is a little bit bigger than average, then Saturn will be in there for a little bit of a longer duration. If your house size is a little bit smaller than average, then Saturn will be in there for a little bit of a smaller duration. Well, anyway, people, the first thing I see when Saturn traverses one's natal 8th house is that you may experience some restrictions or limitations connected with sexual matters. It can be perhaps matters maybe even in paying taxes. It could be something connected with others' resources. This is a period too where you look at the 8th house. The 8th house is about transformation and regeneration, and this could be a period in time where you might really make a real strong major change, which could be very methodical, it could be very slow and progressive. Saturn can make you more cognizant that a change needs to be made. If you're involved with more than one sexual partner at this time, it could be a time where you might narrow it down to one, as you might really discard what's as far as if there's anything superficial, as far as if you have a sexual relationship that may be such, and you might maybe just try to focus more on one and then discard the ones that are not really as significant. This could also be when you look at the 8th house, it's also about shared and others' resources. So this could be a time where you take strong, you look and see if you're involved with somebody and you have shared resources with somebody, you might really take a look and see, well, what's really mine? What's really the other person's? Did I have to pay for 90%, for example? I'm just throwing this out arbitrarily. Did I have to pay for 90% of this, and this person only paid for 10%? And really, is there a way we can get some more equilibrium on this? Can we really maybe have one person maybe pay closer to 50% of these quote unquote shared resources? And as far as you might be looking strongly at power and control as well in general, and in issues that may be connected with that. If you feel that if you're a person that's a very domineering or controlling person, for example, you might be looking and saying, well, maybe I'm really showing too much power in this relationship, for example. Or you may be relinquishing too much power, and you're feeling this other person is just basically romping all over you, so to speak. And this could be a time where you really strongly look at this and evaluate this. The 8th house is also associated with death, and this could be a time where you take matters pertaining to death more seriously. If you're an older person especially, it might be a time where maybe you start at least getting the will together, and really start thinking about issues connected with death more seriously. It might be a time where you become more cognizant of the fact that you're not going to go on to infinity living, and you take a more realistic approach on this matter. The 8th house is also associated with taxes, and this could be a time where you might really be, if you've been procrastinating on paying taxes, this could be a time where these issues may come to the forefront, so to speak, and you might be forced to take more responsibility as far as this goes. Now, also, if there's any difficulties with sex, if there's any kind of restriction or limitation happening, even in the isolated cases, if there's somebody experiencing some kind of sexual inhibitions, this could be the time where you actually really you become more cognizant, you're more aware of it. It really comes to light during this time, and you're really maybe facing it more. Now, you look at this, I think what's interesting is that actor Charlie Sheen will have Saturn will hit his 8th house in middle February of 2017. It will enter his 8th house at that time, and this could be a time where maybe he really becomes a lot more as far as disciplined, as far as matters connected with sex, and really focuses on maybe a real super serious type relationship, and whatever superficial as far as that goes. Maybe that's when he really decides to discard it, if he hasn't done so already. Now, this is also, I mean, we look at Saturn and look at the 8th house, and Saturn really, it could indicate too that Saturn could be the father, and it could be that maybe if your father is alive, maybe he is playing a more dominant role as far as you making a major change in your life. And also keep in mind that we look at the 8th house too, and the 8th house is also connected with the astrology, the occult, supernatural. So if you're somebody that maybe already is a believer in this subject, this could be a time where you might focus on this a lot more seriously than usual. So those are some things to look at as far as Saturn transiting the 8th house goes. Well, anyway, it's also important to look at the aspects that are made from this transit to your natal planets and points, as this could impact the transit. Let's say, for example, that transiting Saturn in your natal 8th house is making a conjunction to your natal Neptune. Well, this could indicate you might feel a very strong restriction or limitation connected with your dreams. Now, being in the 8th house, maybe, for example, this could be in some cases starting, maybe you try to start your own astrology business, or some kind of maybe even something with insurance, for example, or doing something connected with being a tax examiner. Those are some things to look at as far as that example would go. Now, let's say, for another example, let's say that transiting Saturn in your natal 8th house is making a sextile or trine to your natal Pluto. Well, this could indicate that you might be very capable of laborious effort and concentration of power connected with a major change, or in being in the 8th, it might be connected with major change or transformation. Now, anyway, people, that'll conclude this YouTube astrological segment for Saturn transiting the 8th house in a natal chart. And stay tuned next time, where I'll be dissertating and talking about Saturn transiting the 9th house in a natal chart. Anyway, two things I want to get with you on before I head out. Firstly, the stars may impel but do not compel. And secondly, never isolate any single astrological element, aspect, planetary placement, position, configuration, influence, or what have you, and make an analysis of a person, astrologically speaking, based on this alone. Because astrologically speaking, the person is the sum of all their components in their natal chart, and not just one. Until next time, people, stay well.